Animations of Concepts of Geology. This short story introduces the silicon atom, the basic building block of rocks. It describes the rock cycle. My name is silicon. I am the heavier sister of carbon. While my lighter and slimmer sister carbon makes up the life on planet Earth, I make up the heavy rocks forming the Earth's crust. My sister carbon, with her two brothers from oxygen, forms a light blanket of CO2 called carbon dioxide, like a layer of glass on a glass house that keeps me and my brothers warm. They feed the plants that feed the animals, and they put bubbles in the waters that carve the rocks with holes so that they can hold water like a sponge. I and my two brothers from oxygen, called quartz or SiO2, form real glass and the rocks that cover the planet. We were all born in a distant star, and when the sun died, we were spit out into space. With time, and with the help of gravity, we were gradually all crowded together into a 14,000 kilometer diameter ball. I, silicon, with my two brothers oxygen, share the 5 to 50 kilometer thick crust of planet Earth, and I share it with my cousins aluminium, calcium, and magnesium. Below us was a 3,000 kilometer thick molasses of half melted rock that I shared mostly with my heavier cousin magnesium. The next 4,000 kilometers, called the core, was out of my territory. It was a sea of melted iron and nickel, with a solid center, much like a kernel in a fruit. When I woke up from a deep sleep, I found myself slowly moving around in my cozy bed called magma. Then I noticed that the slow current started to go faster. At first, it was great, as a while back I was hardly moving at all. But then the current got faster and faster until it got so fast that I did not quite know what was happening. Then, before I knew it, the mountain we were all in suddenly burped, and I found myself being slowly spit out. The ones before me, I later found, were expelled as ash that solidified in the air like hail. We called them pumice. When I got to the mountain's mouth, I found I was flowing down with what seemed to me the entire magma. We flowed into a very deep ocean, and we cooled off so quickly that we didn't have much time to form crystals. Our crystals were so small that you could only see them with a magnifying glass. Like glaciers crack when they melt and mud cracks when it dries out, we cracked on cooling and formed pillar structures. As we were cooling down, we found ourselves shrinking, which really made us crack up, and we filled the cracks with all the space that we lost when we cooled and shrunk. Some of us found ourselves in very bending situations, and some of us eventually folded. We were known for making good building materials for humans because we broke up into boulders with shapes like blocks. We were called basalt, and we covered most of the ocean floor. We were very fine-grained because we cooled so fast and did not have time to develop our crystals. Many of us landed up as pillars and walls for humans. For those that cooled and solidified slowly because they remained underground, their only hope for freedom was to be pushed up out of the ground by some underground upheaval. Those rocks were called granite. The slower granite cooled, the bigger crystal grains it had, and the coarser it became. Big pieces of granite ended up to be eventually pushed up to proudly show their face to the sun. Some ended up to be polished and used as kitchen tabletops. I ended up in the middle of the continent called North America. An ice age arrived. It started to snow and didn't stop snowing until only mountain peaks were able to see the sun. The pressure of all that snow turned the snow into a flowing ice called glacier. When the ice age left, Glacier was very sad and started to cry. The continent got flooded, receding waters eroded the mountains, and salts accumulated in the oceans over the depression caused by the heavy ice. Eventually, the inland ocean overflowed and drained. As continent drained and the melting ice moved, rocks were broken into boulders, crushed into stones, polished into pebbles, ground into sand, and pulverized into silt, which mixed with aluminium and made clay so that humans could make their own rocks in any shape and form they liked. The land was sculptured as if by a giant clawing hand and shaped by the draining waters in the very same way as waterfalls carved the land. Bays of all sizes formed. The residue of rocks eventually were carried down by water and gravity, where they accumulated and settled as hills called moraines. The rivers washed the rock down to the sea, breaking them up along the way until the rocks reached the oceans, where they were broken into sand by the pounding waves. They accumulated as sediment, and the pressure of the ocean squeezed the silt, mud, and sand so tightly together that siltstone, mudstone, and sandstone were formed. These sedimentary rocks were used for building houses, walls, and bridges. I eventually got washed down into the ocean and lived a while as a sedimentary rock. I got mixed up with a bunch of seashells. We were so tightly squeezed together that my crystals got recrystallized. From then on, I was called limestone. Because water with CO2 made holes in me, you will find me wherever you find a cave. Limestone was used to build the pyramids and expensive limestone buildings that were built to last longer than sandstone buildings. I didn't stay limestone for long. I got buried very deep, and the pressures and temperatures were so high that my crystals got aligned like soldiers on a march. I got harder and more beautiful, and others started to call me marble. Sedimentary rocks changed their crystalline structure under great temperatures or pressures. Their crystals got aligned or foliated more and more the deeper the rocks were buried. When shale, many with fossils, were buried deep under continent, they changed to a different rock depending on how deep they were buried. First into slate, then phyllite, schist, and finally into gneiss, as if the fossils of shale changed into the tiger stripes of gneiss. When sandstone metamorphized, it changed into quartzite. When limestone was buried deep under continent, the pressures and high temperatures recrystallized the calcium crystals and it metamorphized into marble, and that is what happened to me. After my afternoon nap, I was heaved out from underground and saw the sun a second time, no longer as limestone, but now as marble. Marble was used to make beautiful floors and buildings and statues that were built to last even longer than limestone. I was so beautiful with my new foliated crystals that a human saw me one day and used me to make a statue so beautiful that many people came from far away to look at it. I was unfortunately in the part of the statue that many people touched. One day, as I was being moved to a new museum, I was rubbed off the statue and landed in the bottom of the crate, which ended up on a ship, and it sailed across the ocean where it sank. There, at the bottom of the ocean, I waited for my next move and contemplated on the past and wondered about the future.